I somehow had that hope, saying it'll happen. I still have hope, hoping that I will make it big, or I will do this, I will do that with acting, with modeling, or with my DJing. And I still think of it that way, and I'd probably never give up. Having said that, I will continue doing it as long as I enjoy doing it. The moment it kind of, I stop enjoying it, I think I'll probably just do something else. And I'm very okay and accepting of it.
Hey guys, that was Martin D'Souza. He's a DJ, actor, model, and a KJ. Yeah, that's right. He's a KJ, which is basically a karaoke jockey. Stick around to understand what that is if you haven't heard of one, and how super awesome fun it is to be one. So in this episode, we talk about the right way to learn things when you're in college, and how you can really put yourself out there and even enjoy your college days. How hard work and hustle never really stop and should never stop. And how hope can be a good fuel for your mind. And how it can really urge and spur you on and keep you at it. So yeah, in this episode, we also go into a lot of memories, brands and instances from how India and Bangalore was back in the day. So if you are an 80s kid or a 90s kid, then you're in for a true treat. And yeah, I can't wait for you guys to experience it. If you like the intro and you like where this episode's heading, then consider smashing the like button and showing the YouTube algorithm what's up. And also, yeah, if you're listening to this over audio and if you haven't subscribed or followed our show yet, then consider hitting the follow button too. Cool. Let's get right into the episode then. This is episode 37 with Martin D'Souza. There is no start or end to the show. Okay. We probably started like when you walked in itself. Okay. Like shooting you on the CCTV and...
Wow.
Yeah, I should have signed you up for this. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, dude, I am super glad you're finally here. I think, like you said, you've had a couple of tough weekends and you've been traveling for quite a while now. And I'm glad that we finally made time and we're sitting here and having a conversation. And
finally, I'm having your coffee.
Yeah,
finally.
It's
and
good?
It's great. It's great. Yeah. I love black coffee. So
yeah. Awesome. Cool. So I reached out to you, and what really caught my eye, and I think I mentioned this to you earlier as well, is I looked at your Instagram profile, and the thing that caught my eye is I quit my regular job to do what I love. And about that, you have literally... There's like a gamut of things that you have jotted down. So it's this. And then at the end, it's like photography and traveling and this. And I'm just like, wow, that's great. And when you look at your photos, and I think your journey too, when I spoke to you about that, it really does encapsulate all of that, right? Yeah. But I can't wait to really dive deep and let our viewers and listeners know too how you've really gotten here. Yeah. But going through all of that, I think, you come from initially a very conventional mindset, and then you suddenly, decide to just take couple of 180s and just go all over the place, right?
I think more than conventional, it was fear. I think it was that mindset. It was just fear. Honestly, I think about it now, and like what I'm doing now, I could have probably tried doing this a long time back as well. I didn't. Just out of fear. That's it. It happened. Yeah.
And you decided to take that plunge relatively early on in your life, right?
Yeah, I would have
loved to do it
earlier. But,
we all do, right?
Yeah. But like I said, I think I have no regrets about starting off at whatever point I did. But I think I feel like I would have got a head start, or I would have learned a lot more in whatever fields that I did pursue after that.
Yeah.
But having said that, the job that I did before that, the jobs that I did before that actually taught me a lot. It really taught me so much that I usually kind of use all those learnings and values into what I do today.
Right.
And it helps. I don't think you'll realize it immediately.
Yeah.
But, I think it happens over a few years.
Yeah, for sure. I think we should first and foremost talk about this fear bit, because
Yeah.
there are two things here, right? One is how people who are relatively younger don't really know whether they're capable of doing something like this, and whether you can even monetize it and forget, because everyone's going into making or building a career always from a finance or monetization perspective, all the time, right? It's only when shit hits the fan and then they're like, now I should really reconsider this whole thing. And more often than not, and I think we are talking to one of our previous guests about this too, he said, off late, I've been finding individuals who are doing this at a very young age. And that's probably because the threshold has become so much easier for us to get ourselves and put ourselves out there. But if you think about maybe 10, 20 years ago, people were still like, should I really do this? Because what's it going to do to me? Why would I even do that? Because it's a big risk, right? And that fear of not knowing is like the scariest shit out there.
Yeah, man. It's crazy, because I completely agree with that. I think I find a lot more people, from the younger generation doing this right now, immediately after college. Actually, a lot of them doing it during college, and that's great, and they continue with it. Multiple reasons, maybe exposure, maybe inspiration, and like I said, social media plays a big role, and I think they have a better platform than what we did. No excuses. There are people who back in the day did these things, right, without thinking of anything else around them, but they did it, right? So that's why I said no excuses. But I think the environment is more conducive nowadays, more acceptable by society or by people than it was a few years ago.
For sure, yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. And so if you think about it, there's this whole conundrum, right? Like years ago, there were very few people doing this. So competition wise, it's like, okay, man. It's okay. Not once I put myself out there, okay, maybe I can shine because there are only few stars out there to shine, right? But in this case, literally with everyone doing this, that's all the more reason for you to not do it now. You get it? That's exactly. Also another fear, right?
Because there's no niche anymore, right? In a lot of fields, you try to look for a niche and you're like, man, there are 10 other people who've been doing this for long enough. And who are specialized in this now, and I'm entering this field now. Damn, like what do I do? I agree with that. That, like I said, the grass is always greener. always greener.
Always. And I think that fear that we have, where do you think that fear comes from? Like for instance, I know for the fact it's a combination of a lot of things, right? It could be how you're brought up, to how society just looks at you. It could be how your friends have something in mind and you're like, maybe you always relate to your near and dear ones, right? Like, oh, so a cousin who's done this. So basically, this is what the person's done after maybe getting a post-graduation degree. Exactly. So then that's exactly how everyone's life's supposed to be. So you take it up too, thinking, oh, that's exactly how I'm going to end up. And then you realize maybe it works for him or her, but it doesn't work for me.
So I think growing up, at least, back in the day, a lot more, there were very few professions that people thought were legit, and I'm sure it still happens. But I think we faced it a lot more. And I think that was the root cause of all these problems. That when you were growing up, you were told or you were made to believe that a certain career is what you have to look at. And for a certain career, I think there were 3 back then, 3 or 4.
Exactly. You can count in one hand.
You could actually just count in one hand. And you grew up that way, right? And even society back then, their acceptance level of you doing something else is very different. And I always give this example to parents or elderly people or even friends for that matter, that when parents watch reality shows and you see a kid dancing or a kid singing on a reality show, they're like, oh wow, they're so talented, right? But the reason you're seeing how talented they are is because obviously it's their own effort, but also that their parents have let them do what they want to do and have got them up on that platform. Right. And that's the reason you're appreciating it. But if it were your own kids, in the same scenario, you'd be like, what are you doing in life? Right. I'm saying this is how it was.
Stop embarrassing yourself.
Stop embarrassing yourself. And what are you doing? So it's very, very different. And I think that's how it was when we were growing up. Also, society kind of had certain mandates, they had a picture of what a perfect professional life should be.
Right.
Professional and personal, I would say. And I think that really affected all of us a lot. To a large extent, actually, even when I quit my job, a lot of my friends, I mean, obviously, a lot of them were supportive, but there were people who actually told me, "Hey, what are you doing in life? I mean, are you sure?" In fact, when I started DJing, I still remember so many of them telling me, "How long will it last?" Right? And it's a, I mean, it came out of a place of concern, obviously, but it's 8 years since I've been DJing, or 10 years since I've been hosting karaoke, for example. And I'm still doing it. I'm still enjoying it, and I'm still paying my bills with it. Right. And that's I think that's one of the biggest mountains that you have to climb when you're going through something like this, is that people telling you these things. So you take what helps you and you kind of ignore what doesn't. I think it's just that.
Yeah, I think the ignoring part is so key.
Yeah, it is. I still do. I mean, even now people are like, "Oh, okay, so you're a DJ or you're an actor. Like, is that even a career?" A lot of them actually talk about it. And these are the same people who probably go for a music concert paying, 5,000 rupees for a ticket, or are the same people who go to watch a movie, right? It is the same, right? It's just that when it's someone who's doing this, or probably hasn't already made it to the top, I think it's the thinking. They judge the process, right? They don't judge the result. I don't think they look at it from a result perspective yet, because everyone has a different scale. For some, success would probably be here. Some people's success would be here. So that's the other thing. I think they perceive it in a very different manner.
So true. I think that journey is something that a lot of people don't get. That process, like you said, right? Everyone can look at someone who's gotten to the top and say, "Wow, look at that person. He's like killing it, or she's killing it," right? But then, I mean, if the person didn't put in years of effort,
they wouldn't have got there. So I say this. Obviously, I think hard work is the key. You really need to put in as much hard work as you can, and like, I believe in luck, okay, to a certain extent.
Dude, I need to talk to you about that, because I need some, I don't know, tips there, because I don't know, your luck is like, I don't know, you've never even thought about getting into acting, never thought about getting into, except maybe DJing, something that came to you, right? Everything else has just come to you, literally, like, come and not handed, but you did your work. But at least you got the opportunity.
I got the opportunity. Yeah, I agree. So I think it's that. I think luck plays a small factor, and I feel like you keep working hard towards it, and it's that one breaking point, or it's that one tipping point, and it'll probably happen. For some it happens early on, for some it takes years together. So that and my friends and I always discuss this, saying that, hey, like apna time aayega. It is what it is, man. I mean, I think it's as true a statement as it can be.
Damn. So where do you think this luck comes from? I know a lot of people who subscribe to this feeling that only if you do the work and you actually put yourself out there is when, again, there are like, two sides of the coin here. Right? There's one guy, one side who believes in this woo-woo bit where, there's the secret and the universe is working.
You're throwing it in, I'll get it back.
Coming back, karma and everything, right? And then there's the other bit where they're like, because we're doing these things, rationally, other doors are bound to open up. What do you think? Where do you think that luck plays a factor?
So I think it's kind of a balance. You also have to be positive about it, and I strongly believe in it. You can't crib about it constantly and expect miracles to happen. It won't happen. It might happen, but I don't know.
You're just super lucky then.
You're just super lucky. But I think you have to constantly work towards that, because when it happens, you have to be prepared for it, right? I'll give a simple example for like someone who wants to get into acting, right? You have to constantly work hard on grooming yourself, on being good in front of the camera, languages maybe, dance maybe, all of these things, right? And someone is going to take notice at some point of time. And maybe someone's looking for a specific character, and maybe you fit that character. It's not always about looks. Looks actually plays a very small percentage about, with regard to this. It actually is a lot skill driven. And you can see cinema nowadays, and you will see the kind of talent that has come out, right? It is not a stereotypical, someone who has a six pack all the time and, who looks a certain way. There is not, that stereotype is not there anymore. Maybe there is to a certain extent, but a lot more people are coming out because they are preparing themselves to become an actor, and that plays a big role. And I'm saying this is just one career, right? It can be the same thing with music, right? Someone can, I don't know, be singing here and there just normally at a karaoke bar, but someone will take notice maybe at some point of time, and that someone who takes notice might be someone who'd be the game changer in your life.
Yeah, so true.
It is that. And so you can't just leave it and say, hey, I just wish someday this will happen. Right? It doesn't work. It's constant. It's this, everyone goes through it. And it might, like I said, it might take time, it might not take time, but you need to be prepared when you meet the opportunity, because if you're not prepared when you meet the opportunity, you will bomb. You will. I've gone through this in like certain parts, and I was shooting for this one video many years ago, and the director was a former Miss India, so very talented lady, and man, like I got chosen for that particular video, and I was shooting with this guy who was from the US but had moved to India to pursue acting. Yeah, it's crazy.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Talk about Bollywood over Hollywood.
Yeah. He still is, man. I mean, I see him on TV all the time. He does movies. He does a lot of serials, soaps. So he's there. He's there. And I remember we had certain dialogues, and man, that day I bombed and how. And I still remember I was sitting there and I'm like, what am I doing? Right? I mean, it's I don't know, maybe it got to me, maybe I got really nervous. I don't know what it was, but I couldn't deliver. It took me a while. Like what probably I could do in, say, half an hour now, it took me a good 4-5 hours, right? It was a long time, but luckily they were very patient, both the director and the actor, the fellow actor. They were extremely patient, extremely nice about it. And, it really helped me settle down. Right? It helped. But like I said, I don't think I was that well prepared to do that. Maybe I should have gone through the dialogues a few days before. Maybe I could have practiced it better. There are a lot of maybes that I didn't do, but it came out well, and that's the genius that the director, the cinematographer had, and the co-actor, right? I mean, they did a brilliant job of making it look like, wow.
Seamless.
Seamless, right? But I know the struggle that went on that day. And like I said, what I could do in half an hour took 4 hours.
Damn. Yeah. No, was that one of your initial gigs?
Yeah, it was one of my initial gigs. It was a very long time back. Yeah, but it was one of my initial gigs. And then obviously things got better, like I said, it's all about, I think, hard work and practice. Maybe you, even the preparation time. I don't think I prepped enough for it. And I'm very honest, candid about it. I still see the video now and I'm like, wow,
cringing,
man. I'm cringing and I'm like, oh God, I can't believe I made them wait so much to just get this one shot. But it looks good, so it's okay.
It's all in hindsight.
It's okay now. But
dude, and I'm sure that would have completely changed the kind of, your outlook itself to this whole thing, right? I'm sure your approach and process to, your next gig would have been very different.
Yeah, it was. Also, at that point of time, I wasn't doing this full time, or I wasn't doing it as much, right? Like I said, I we discussed this before, that I still had that fear about moving out of comfort zone to something that was unknown to me at that particular point of time. Unknown in terms of a career. That's what it was.
Right. But then, so when you changed up your process, did you see a lot of other people take notice because you were slowly able to up your game and, take those incremental steps?
So it did. It did make a big difference. And I think ultimately people notice. Maybe it'll take a year, maybe it'll take 2 years, but people will ultimately notice.
And I think only because you kept doing that on the side is when you actually realize that this could be something you can do. In this case, you're doing a gamut of things, but then one of your part full-time thing.
It was. Because when I was in college, right, we, like a couple of my friends, we used to go for a lot of college competitions. And I think we were great. We worked together as a team. And we did really well at intercollegiate and intracollegiate fest.
You're from Joseph's, so
I'm from Joseph's and then CMS. Okay, so we were hardcore. competitive.
You're
people.
joining the college for the fest.
Yeah, it was literally that. And the reason, and telling you, I did my 11th and 12th, I did PU, and I did science. And the reason I did science was because I didn't know what I wanted to do in the future. Yeah. The only reason I did science was like, hey, at the end of those 2 years, I'll be at this position where I can either move into commerce, science, or arts, depending on what interests me.
Yeah.
I had no clue what I wanted to do. And it was so weird that I came across the BBM course, and I love the structure, how a business management course worked, because it was a lot of presentations, a lot of practical things that you need to do.
How did you get exposed to that though? I mean, did you go asking,
So a lot of my friends were getting into it around me. So that really helped, obviously, because I had no clue.
Exactly. I still have no clue.
I mean, exactly. Yeah. It happens to all of us. So at that point of time, because you're just passing out of PU.
Yeah.
And you've had 2 years out of school.
Yeah.
And when we were in school, things were very, very different, right? And then these 2 years, the kind of freedom that you got was very different.
Yeah.
And the kind of exposure that you got was very different. So now you're suddenly in this rut, and of everybody else, having planned their lives already, and you're like, man, I don't know what I want to do, right? And at that point of time, luckily I came across the BBM course, and I went through the structure, and I was the only one who hadn't applied to any other colleges compared to my friends. Everyone went all out, right? They applied everywhere. I was like, man, what do I do? And I remember I applied only to 2 colleges at that time because I loved the BBM structure. And back then, Joseph's didn't have a BBM course. They hadn't started it yet.
So yours was the first courses. First year.
It was a year after that. Joseph's was a year after that. So that is when I'm like, man, what do I do? And I was a thoroughbred Josephite, right? I did schooling, I did my PU in Joseph's. So my only direction was that Joseph's.
Fidet lover.
Yeah, it was that, right? And Josephite for life. But at that point of time, I was like, man, they don't have this BBM course, and this is the course I want to do. So what do I do? Because it was a mix of everything. It was a mix of marketing, mix of finance, everything. And then I'm like, man, what do I do? So then I found out that only Christ and CMS had this course. So there were the only 2 college forms I filled up after PU. Wow. Only 2. And my parents are like, what are you doing? Are you nuts? What if you don't get it? And I don't know. I just had this weird feeling that I will. And I took up 2 of the forms, submitted in Christ, submitted in CMS. And it was a really tough interview process, right? It was a 4 or 5 day process. So
this is an interview?
Yeah. Man, getting into BBM was like a big deal back then.
What are you saying?
Yeah. It was a big deal back then. So, the first round was like a written exam. So you have a written exam.
What?
Yeah, man. There's a written exam. So they eliminate people according to that. So you have a math, English, multiple aptitude test. So you and both the colleges had this as an entry process. So I think the first day you do this, the second day you have so if you get through that, then you have a presentation to do the next day. You have to do the presentation. Then the third day you have a group discussion. So you're thrown into a room with random people and you have to do a group discussion with them.
This sounds so alien to me.
It was. I'm telling you, it was crazy. And I'm like, man, I feel like I'm applying for a job already. Right? I don't think I've done so much even for a job. And then the final process was the interview. So it's not after the 4 rounds. It's not like you're through.
Yeah.
You still have to give an interview.
This is so weird, right? You're doing all of this to pay.
Exactly. Right. You're doing all of this to pay, and you're like, wow. And this is back then when BBM just started. BBM was like a kind of a new concept back then. Yeah. Right now, like a lot more colleges have it. So I remember my final round, and they both clashed because I think one was during the morning at Christ and one in the evening at CMS. So I went to Christ for my interview, and I got grief from there saying, hey, why aren't you going back to Joseph? Why are you coming back to Christ? And I'm like, wow, man, I want to study. That's the only thing I want to do. What is
just take my money.
College? Yeah, just take my money and let me in. And that happened, right? And after that, went to CMS, and I got asked the same thing because, I'd studied in Joseph's throughout. So it's a similar question saying, why do you want to choose this after the Joseph's? And I was like, hey, because y'all are the only 2 guys who have a BBM course. Right?
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. Yeah. It's not any other reason. Yeah. And I was as honest about it. And the next day, I got through both the colleges. The 2 colleges I applied, luckily I got through both the colleges. And I was like, man, now what do I do? So one was Christ, right, and one was CMS. And Christ was known for discipline, etc.
Yeah.
So your parents obviously pushed you more towards that.
Yeah.
And they weren't familiar with CMS. And I'm like, man,
Good for them.
good for them. Yeah. So I was like, man, like, what do I do? What do I do? And it was a tough decision, but I chose CMS ultimately. And I think one of my best decisions of my life. Those 3 years, man, I learned so much. I made the best of friends. We are still as close as possible. And maybe Christ also would have been that, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. But I'm saying I didn't regret the 3 years. A lot of my friends, a lot of people I know always say, hey, man, college was the worst days of my life. I loved college, man. I mean, both my PU and degree. And that's how I got into degree. And I did a BBM course because I loved the structure of the course. The reason I did that course was that. Right? It let me kind of do a lot more things. And yeah, I mean, even during the BBM course, we were so competitive. Like, we were super competitive at every college competition. The only thing we went in there was to win.
Yeah.
There was no, spirit of, there's nothing.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, okay, we'll just enjoy the spirit of, participating. It wasn't that. It was about winning.
Yeah.
And that's how we all were. And that's how college actually made us. But we had a blast and we did everything possible, right? We went for every competition possible. And I learned a lot more. I think I became very confident during my college phase. And I wasn't during school.
Okay.
I loved school, but I think I was just this really timid person in school. I wouldn't even attempt doing something. I'd just be scared. So I wouldn't even attempt it.
Yeah.
It was that. Yeah.
Is that because of the fear itself? Just
it was a fear. Like, public speaking was a big no-no for me.
It's such a, it's an inherent fear, right? If you think about it.
It is.
Like, most people are born with the fear of heights and fear of just public speaking.
Yeah.
Which is just like...
So, I still, when I'm still in public on a platform, I still, obviously you have that small, that percentage of fear. I still have it, but I enjoy it because I think it helps me do better. Right. And it was big for me in school. And I still remember in my 4th grade, my teacher chose me for a poetry recitation competition. And I went on stage and I blanked out in front of the entire school. So imagine, first of all boys school, right? In your head, you're like, oh man, I'm going to get bullied so much. But I wasn't. Luckily, my friends, again, I had like great friends. But I went on stage and I blanked out. And this was the 4th grade. And I still remember, I'll never get this picture out of my head. I can never forget this. And it took me a good 5 to 6 years after that to get back and speak in front of a crowd.
Yeah.
And that was in my 9th or 10th grade because our class teacher pushed us to do something in front of the school assembly.
Yeah.
And it took me that long to kind of break the shackles and get in front of people and say something.
Yeah, dude, a very similar incident happened to me too. And dude, it's like like you just said.
And I'm getting goosebumps and I'm thinking about it. I'm like, shit, yeah.
And it's funny, right? If tell me if this happens, I'm sure it happens to you, and tell me if this is how you're picturing it. Are you picturing it from a third point of view? Third person point of view?
Yeah.
You are, right? It's not from our point of view, it's about how someone's watching us.
Exactly. It is always about how someone else is judging you.
Yeah. And we weren't even there, but I'm able to clearly see it like I'm on stage there.
Exactly.
Like a fucking movie, right?
Exactly. It's like how someone else perceived you, right? At that point of time.
Yeah.
And it's crazy because I think it broke me, man. I mean, for the first 5-6 years, I didn't do a lot more things that I could have probably in school. And in school, your focus was never anything else. Your focus was just studies because that's what you were told. And I was never into sports as such. We used to play football, but it for fun.
Yeah.
It was never anything beyond that because the focus was education. The focus, not education, the focus was studies.
Studying.
The focus was studying. And that's what happened in school. But I think college changed that. My PU, like my first PU, second PU changed that and kind of helped me prepare for the next 3 years of my degree after that.
Yeah.
Again, I had a great set of friends and I'm still in touch with them. I still meet them, still bump into them. But it really helped. I think it really helps when you're in a certain environment.
Yeah,
right?
so true.
It really does.
Yeah. And because it goes back to what we said earlier, right? If you don't have an idea of something,
Yeah.
or let's say you have preconceived notions of something too, it's all based on the people around you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
So
are an effect of the people around
people
you.
around you.
Yeah.
And it can work both ways.
Yeah, so
Right?
true.
It can
Yeah,
work
yeah.
both ways. So
Yeah.
people can either inspire you or they can put you down.
Yeah.
And it works. So it comes up to you what you want to take or who you want to
Be around.
Be around. And I think it's so important. And I say this. I mean, I don't think you get to choose your friends. Your friends happen to you, right? And I think I've been fortunate enough for these friends, who happen to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're still friends, man. I mean, I love them, and I think they made a big difference in what I've become today.
Yeah. When I think about it now that you say so, right? Your friends happen to you,
Yeah.
but I think you get to choose your best friends, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
And obviously, there are phases in life when there's a up and down. People kind of drift away. People come back. But that is what it is because, your life doesn't only revolve around your friends.
Yeah.
There are a lot more things. Work happens.
Yeah.
And I think once work happens, everything just disappears.
Yeah.
At least in initial years.
Yeah. No, I get that. And I think these kind of experiences earlier on in life is what will truly set the mark and slowly build you up to the person you're going to be, right?
True.
So I think all these things really added up. But tell me this, let's talk a little bit on the luck side of things.
Yeah.
Let's put that aside for now. But I think on the luck side of things, I'd like you to talk about how you got into acting. Because that's I think we spoke about you walking around
MG Road.
Road, right? Yeah.
So back in the day when we were in college, Barista on MG Road was the place to be at.
Right.
And I think the whole of Bangalore.
Just
used to
after
hang out
Gangaram's,
there.
right?
Yeah. Used to just hang out at that Barista. And you had to be seen at this
Dude, what is
Barista.
what arcade or complex?
No, I'll tell you what is the Barton Center.
Barton Center, yeah.
So it was that place you needed to be at, right? And so obviously all of us were there all the time. Yeah. And it was crazy because we were there and, just chilling around. And I still remember this, that I bumped into my friend and we were talking. And I said, hey, okay, it's time to go home. And it's just evening. So I was walking out of Barista onto MG Road. I was walking and this lady walked up to me. And she's like, hey, hi. So I was like, hi. And she's like, you know what? I work for a production company and we're kind of scouting for talent for a particular ad. So would you be interested? So I looked around and I honestly thought my friends were pranking me because my friends are capable of it.
Yeah.
Right?
And like Bakra.
Yeah. And back then there was this show called MTV Bakra, which was so big. And what they did was go around pranking people. Yeah. So I honestly thought I was on the show.
You're looking around for cameras.
Looking around and I'm like, where are my friends? Where are my friends? Okay, I'm waiting for them to just pop out and say, hey, I was just looking around and I didn't believe her. And I still remember her telling me this, like, I know this might, this doesn't seem genuine, so hold on. So she called a colleague and I think cell phones were very rare at that time. Yeah. I think cell phones had just come out and it became that common. Yeah. So her colleague came about 5 minutes later and he gave me his visiting card. Only after I saw his visiting card, I believed him because it said Nirvana Telefilms and I was a business management student. So I'd studied about advertising, about, production houses. So I had an idea about this. That's the only time I actually believed them. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, like this is really happening. And I went for the audition. I didn't get that first ad that I auditioned for, but I went for another audition and got that second one, which was my first television commercial.
Yeah.
And it didn't end there because I did this ad and it was a really goofy, funny ad. And it was for MTR Upma.
Okay.
And I still remember, because that one line where you're like, when you're like looking at your mother landing from there and you're like, MTR ke wajah se hum sabko maa mil gayi. Okay, so that was the line, like the final line.
Yeah.
Man, the next few years in college, everyone just kept calling me ma. And I had to live through this in college. And I'll tell you the irony of all of that. Okay, it was a really like a goofy, funny ad. Okay, the irony of it is that a few years later, I got into advertising and I joined O&M. Yeah. And I'm walking by the office. It's just my first week at office. So I'm just getting to know people. So I'm just walking by and I see my colleague, in his cabin and he's looking at this ad. And I'm walking by and I can hear these dialogues. And I'm like, oh man, it sounds so familiar. What is happening? And I look to it and it's the same ad. Like he's watching that same ad that I've been in. And I think that realization happened saying, shit, is that him? Like that guy who's walking by. And it was that. So my friend was, my colleague and then my friend was managing the brand, right? And the same agency had made the ad. And I was like, oh my God.
Ma again.
Yeah, Ma again. I'm like, I can't believe college is repeating after like, I don't know, 2-3 years in an office.
Yeah.
But it was that. And it was luck. It was luck because I just randomly got picked off the street. And
Literally.
Literally. So this happens a lot, by the way. They do street casting a lot.
Right.
And, I realized much later. But back then, I was blessed that this happened to me at that point of time. And in fact, the person who cast me is doing really well in Bollywood right now. She's won multiple Filmfare awards.
Whoa.
Yeah, she was AD on multiple movies, and now she's gotten into designing costumes, etc. And she won I think 2-3 Filmfares for it, man. So she's doing really great, and she's hanging out with the stars, and but I'm so thankful to her.
Yeah.
That because of her,
Yeah.
this journey happened.
Yeah. So you shot here itself in Bangalore?
Yeah. I shot in Bangalore. We shot at Kantirva Studios.
Okay.
And everything was on a green screen.
Yeah.
And for this was like a long time back. So when you watch the ad now, you're like, wow. Because for me, I used to just watch TV, right? And you don't know what the process behind it is. That's the first time I saw it happen, and I'm like, wow, man, like this is a miracle happening.
Yeah.
Because what you see on the final output is so different from what the raw footage is. And you're looking at it and you're like, man, like this is magic. Right? Yeah. It was great. It was, again, a great experience. Had such a great time shooting for that ad. I learned a lot. And it was with one of the best production houses in the country.
Wow.
It was. So
It truly happened since the luck.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
it was that, right? It happened. It just happened. And yeah, I mean, that's how it started. That was my first TVC.
Yeah.
And then ironically, I got into advertising as a profession after college. And I didn't have time to do anything else. I used to work 14, 16 hours
But did you
a day.
get inquiries?
I did get inquiries when I was working for the agency.
Yeah.
And
But you couldn't take it
I
up?
couldn't take it up because work was just so hectic. I worked on all days, all national holidays.
Yeah.
Be it a band, or be it a strike, whatever it was. I was constantly working because work was that hectic. I never got any offs. So it was very difficult. Like work was really hectic. But I think at that point of time, I worked with so many people, and I used to work with agencies who helped us get talent for our ads that we were shooting. And a few years later, I ended up working with the same agencies,
I thought so.
but from a different perspective. So I worked as an actor model for them.
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I mean, I'm telling you, like life really goes like a complete circle. Yeah.
Damn. So tell me this. You spoke about how you need to be prepared when the opportunity comes knocking.
Yeah.
In this case, I mean, you had no prior experience in acting, right? Or did you?
Yeah. So the prior experience here was all the theatre that we did when we were in college. And we were heavily into dramatics, and we had a Mad Hads team. Man,
Mad Hads was a thing, right?
We were a crazy bunch of boys. And we had such a blast because it was our forte. Honestly, I think there were a bunch of Mad Hats teams that were great at that point of time. And Mad Hats was big. Back then, it was big. Like I said, 5 of us, and I had this conversation with you, the 5 of us in that team were impractical jokers. We were those characters, man, in real life. Right. And I think about it now and I'm like, man, they're making money out of it. They have their own TV show.
Money,
right?
like understatement.
Yeah.
They're killing
like,
it.
Man, like if we had just stuck on to this, right? I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
But like I said, we were what those impractical jokers were. And we didn't stick on to it. Like I said, I don't think we had the guts. We didn't have the courage to kind of stick on to it, or we didn't know how to monetize it.
Yeah.
I think that was the biggest thing. And we didn't have the confidence. We didn't even have a proper phone. Back in the day, the quality of a video
It's a flip phone.
Yeah, was so bad. Right?
3GP.
3GP. So yeah, that was a big thing, right? And anything bigger than that is heavily pixelated.
Like, yeah. Oh my God.
So we didn't know. Because we did so much. We had so much content. But we never shot it because we didn't have the equipment to shoot it.
Yeah.
Right.
And
Buying a
even if
camera
you do,
back then.
why shoot it?
Yeah. Why shoot it? You're like, why? And where to put it up, right? It would have been in our archives that maybe someone would have found on a CD that you were burnt back then.
After 200 years.
Yeah, it was that. So we didn't know where to put it, and we didn't know what to do with it. And there was no social media. Social media for us was Orkut, right? And what do you do in Orkut? You just go write.
Big ass descriptions.
Descriptions about everyone else. Right? That's the only thing, right? Because we didn't have the channel to kind of put your talent out there.
Yeah.
The only way you could do it was on stage at that particular point of time.
Yeah.
And it happened. I remember we took part in Sarang, which is a fest by IIT Chennai. And we did Mad Ads there, a form of Mad Ads with advertising. And I remember the judge was from JWT, which back then was, again, one of the bigger agencies. And he offered a job. Like he immediately told us that, hey, once you guys are done with college, you can always come and apply with us and you're more than welcome to join us. And it was such a big thing for us, right?
Yeah.
But back then for us, that was the achievement, right? And we never did anything beyond that.
Right.
Even when I joined advertising, it wasn't through them. It was through the Bangalore branch that I did.
Right.
Because I'd interned with one of the ad agencies and it just happened naturally. But it was never this. We never even, thought towards that direction.
Yeah. And I think there should be not a subject, but something that really helps us, some sort of guidance when it comes to that.
Yeah.
I know now these universities have these guidance counselors and all of that, but I think they talk, it's either very gimmicky or it's very, extremely surface level.
It is.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of schools nowadays, I've seen the structures have changed a lot more. So, kids are learning photography, dance, singing, in a more professional manner than we did. We did it because we had to finish 1 hour, right? Like
co-curricular,
extracurricular activity.
Right,
So you had to do it.
Yeah.
You just had to fill up that 1 hour. But now people are doing it from a career perspective. They're learning, or they're being molded into that in a certain manner. And I think a lot more schools are doing that. It never happened to us.
Yeah.
Which is why I feel like I think I got into it much later.
Right.
Than I would have liked.
Yeah.
But that environment wasn't conducive enough. Like I said, it's not an excuse, and I don't hold it for what it was, but it is what it is. At that particular point in time, I didn't have the guts to do it. I didn't do it.
Right.
Simple.
Right. Yeah. So how did this whole DJing bit pop up?
Yeah,
because
man,
that's another
so
thing,
weird.
right?
Yeah. So I let you. So I, even before becoming a DJ, I'm also karaoke jockey.
Yeah.
And it is a profession. It took me a long time to explain to people what I do.
It's a KJ.
People still don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, so they're like, so you're a KJ. What is that? I'm like, yeah, it's a karaoke jockey. So what do you do? I'm like, I make other people sing. And they're like, you need someone to do that, right? It's so weird. Right? And I had to imagine explaining it to your parents. And they're like, so where are you going every night? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to work. So what do you do? Like, man, I'm going to a pub and making people sing. I'm like, what do you mean by
getting
people?
Drunk with them?
Like, what do you mean by make people sing? I'm like, yeah. Just let it be.
Yeah.
So it was that.
Yeah.
So very, very weird. Again, when I was in college, and none of us could sing. Okay, when I say none of us, I mean like our gang, the boys. None of us could sing. We used to do it for fun, and because we came from that, way of thinking of Mad Ads, we were really goofy, just crazy bunch of boys who just did so much shit that it was just crazy.
Yeah.
We just did everything possible, as long as we had fun. That's it, and that was our agenda. But we have a friend of ours who's a brilliant singer, and she used to go to a karaoke bar, and so hence we all went to that karaoke bar just to listen to her sing. And as a group, we are really tight-knit and very supportive of each other. So we were always there and for her. And she used to sing. We used to just sit and watch and faff around and be like, man, what is this weird song? Right? Back in the day for us, our vision of music was very limited.
Yeah.
I remember Eminem had come out back then, so ours was just that.
You
right?
remember
Yeah,
going
like-
to Planet M?
Yeah,
and,
man.
yeah.
Go to Planet Time, with the and listening to them.
Yeah, the CDs on the wall.
CDs on the
right?
wall.
Yeah.
Man, it was such a like that. I think that's why Brigade Road was so dear to all of us, right? Because we built so many memories over there.
Yeah,
And we didn't have any digital music. We didn't have access to.
Yeah.
Even a computer was very rare, right? You had to go to a cyber center and do this.
Yeah.
Buying a laptop was like buying a car, right? It was like that.
Bigger than a car.
Yeah, it was that. And after buying the laptop, getting a good internet connection was even crazier, right?
You freaking that dial-up.
Yeah, you just wait and you're just waiting. Okay.
Dude, when I think about it, why the hell is that thing making noise?
Yeah, I'm like, that. Man, it's so irritating. But yeah, I mean, we went through that phase, and that was our exposure to music. We used to watch it on MTV. Yeah, back then, I think only MTV used to show these songs.
Yeah.
Right. So
And then slowly VH1 came up
and then
later.
slowly VH1 came out.
Yeah.
And we used to go only because she used to sing.
Yeah.
And we were like, oh wow. And then you heard all the other great singers, and I'm like, oh wow, man. Like, what is this talent? Right. It just really hit us. But we were there to have fun. So it took us a few years to even get on stage to sing. But we finally did. But we did for fun,
Yeah.
because everybody else entertained them with their talent.
Yeah.
Our talent wasn't singing. Okay,
Was humor.
Our talent was being goofy on stage. It was that, and so my really close friend, like one of my best friends, Mayank, and I used to go on stage, and we used to just go and sing "Pretty Fly for a White Guy," and go like berserk all over stage. Right, and ironically, he's married to that friend of mine who's a really good singer, Megha. Right, and they're married. Yeah, it's so weird. So it was this. It was all about having fun, and that is what karaoke was for us.
Dude, if you think about it, the best karaoke nights are the ones where you have fun as opposed to just having good talent. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's always
You'll
that.
always say this when you don't have the talent. Yeah, that's why it's
I
that
agree.
nutshell, okay. So it was so funny because she used to come back after such a brilliant performance. And then we go on stage, and then everyone's just laughing, right? That was a contrast, and we did that for years together. But I think over the years we started taking it a little more seriously, saying, "Hey, you know what? If you can entertain people in this way, I'm sure we can do something better." So we worked on songs, and I used to go back home, practice songs, and I couldn't hold a note to save my life back then.
Yeah.
Right. I think now I'm decent at it. I'm probably good at it now because of practice over the last few years.
Yeah.
But it took us a long time to get there.
Right.
But we took it seriously, and we were like, hey, let's practice the song and then go. So that was a gradual learning that happened over a few years. And later it changed. It was still about having fun on stage, but trying to kind of show off, right? And you're at that age where you're trying to impress people, you're trying to impress girls. It was that particular phase, right?
Yeah.
So when you're on stage, you want to impress people, you want people to talk about you. Yeah. And it was that. So put in all effort possible. So went home, practiced, practiced. We sounded bad. The first performance was really bad. Like, you sounded really bad. But by the 10th performance, you sounded like average, right? It was acceptable. Like, people won't boo you off stage. Yeah. It was that. So that's how it happened. And slowly we started enjoying it. Cut to a few years later, I've quit my job, my advertising digital media job, and I'm in the process of figuring out what I want to do in life.
Oh, you didn't quit with anything in mind?
I didn't quit with anything in mind.
Why did you quit though?
So I realized that with my job, I was enjoying it, and I think I was doing well career-wise. But there was always something that I probably thought I would enjoy a lot more doing, with music, with acting, with writing. And writing is something I really enjoyed. And again, writing also was very weird because in college, writing for me was fun. Like, I used to make poems about my friends, like funny things, or write to a girl, write a poem for a girl, and like a really silly poem.
Yeah.
But it started that way. It always started with it being funny and it being for fun. and later obviously took a very different turn. But again, I didn't know how to channelize it into a career. So even when I got into advertising, I got called for an interview because I'd interned at that agency, and I'd done my final year business management project with them.
Right.
And they called me back for an interview. I always wanted to write and never wanted to do client servicing, which is what I did at the agencies. I did client servicing and like brand management. So I went for my interview, and he was interviewing me, and then suddenly I'm like, hey, hold on, sorry. I want to get into advertising as a writer and not as a client servicing person. But he was like, hey, you know what? I think you would be really good at client servicing and brand management. So why don't you do it for a while? And advertising, you can always switch over whenever you want to. Right? That's how it started. So I did that and got into client servicing. But I got so deep into it because even career-wise, growth-wise, I got promoted. And then after you get promoted, you're like, why would I go back and start again at a lower level? Why would I do that?
Right.
So I continued with it. It's not like I didn't enjoy it, but I always wanted to write.
Right.
So this happened. And then, there was music, and I really missed, our mad ads. I really missed public speaking. I missed all these things that I did back in college. Right? Because in college, you felt like a star when you did this. Right? You have your entire college cheering for you when you're on stage. But it's not the same thing when you pass out of college and you get into work. Like, I think reality hit us. And it was our own fault. It wasn't anything else.
That's what you signed up for.
It was what I signed up for. I could have, right? I could have chosen to stick to it and tried and probably got to a level after that.
Right.
But I didn't even want to try because of the fear. Right? Yeah. So anyway, after I quit my job, I literally walked up to my boss and was like, hey, you know what? There's certain things I'd like to do in life. And I think I want to quit. And if I don't quit, I'm never going to do it.
So you're one of those people.
I was one of those. It came down to that level because I'm earning well at that point of time. And career-wise, I'm doing really well. Yeah. So there is no reason for you to quit apart from, you chasing your passion.
Yeah.
Because you're in that bracket which society is like, wow, okay, you're doing well. Even though I wasn't an engineer or a doctor back then, which was something big, but I was into advertising. And, even explaining that was difficult. But, it was easier to say, what you watch on TV is what we work towards. And, at least that was easier to explain, right? And I think after a point of time, money kind of equates to your success. That when you tell someone, hey, I'm making so much, right? It wasn't great because advertising, when you start off, never paid that well. Yeah. But it was decent. And in terms of the position I was in, was great.
And I'm sure there was potential for growth.
Of course, there was big potential beyond that. Yeah. But explaining that to people again is a very, very different thing, right? Yeah. But you still fit into a stereotype in society, at least back then. Yeah. And
I'd like to think so back then.
Because I think things are very different now. I'm not saying people don't think that way now, but I think the percentage has changed.
For sure.
Yeah. So I had to kind of take that decision because I felt like I was just stuck in this rut, and I'm only thinking of when will I get my next promotion? When will I get my next hike? But that's it, right?
I'm waiting for the weekend maybe, and
even then weekend there was no weekend for us. Advertising was, we worked 14-16 hours a day. And it was crazy. And like there are times where I haven't stepped out of office for 72 hours. And I think that's when it hit me. I'm like, what am I doing in life? Right? I'm enjoying doing this. I mean, it's something I like doing. But is it something that I want to do for the rest of my life? Or is it something that I'd really enjoy doing without having to think about money?
Yeah.
So it got to that phase. So I quit my job and I was in the middle of doing a lot of things to kind of pay bills.
Yeah.
But one of the incidents that happened was something that really flipped it for me. So I went for a friend's birthday party and randomly met a lot of people. So everyone was talking. So I don't drink. And everybody else in that party was...
You still don't drink?
I still don't drink. I don't drink. I don't smoke. No, nothing. Yeah.
Kudos to that because I don't either.
Oh, yeah. Wow. Okay.
A lot of people... I did that because I'm sure you get a lot of those reactions, right?
I do, especially in the field that I am.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's a part of my pay package, man, and I'm letting go of it. So,
I can imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, and I got talking with this person, having a conversation, and man, it was so bizarre. We just continued talking, and then she was like, "Hey, you know what? I've seen you sing at this karaoke bar." And I was like, "Oh, okay, yeah." Because for me, that was second home. I used to go do karaoke every weekend. And it became a routine for many years. Opus, but back then when Opus existed.
Oh, shit. Opus was the shit.
Yeah. I was the shit that time, man. But I'll tell you
what. You're talking about the one Whitefield?
No. So ironically, I hosted karaoke there later.
Yeah.
But this is the one on Palace Road.
Okay, the first one.
The first one, yeah. So that, for us, we were like furniture there. I was there all the time, right? At least for all the karaoke sessions. So she was like, "Yeah, I've seen you sing there." I said, "Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, man, we just do it for fun." And then she's like, "Why don't you host karaoke? Would you like to host karaoke?" Then I was like,
I think this lady's just drunk.
Yeah, I was like, man, and we're still like very good friends, by the way.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know. I mean, can I make it a job? And can I do something with it? And then she said, "You know what? Let me take your number down, and you think over it. I'll get back to you, and we'll take this forward." Right? So this conversation happened, and I thought this is just going to be one of those random conversations you have with strangers, and it just gets done. So it was 1 week went by, 2 weeks went by, 3 weeks went by. I didn't even think about it. I'd completely forgotten about this night.
Yeah.
And I think third or fourth week, I got a call on a Monday. I still remember it was a Monday, and she's like, "Hey, hi, this is Aditi."
This is when you don't have a job.
Yeah, I don't have a full-time job. I mean, not job. I was freelance. I was doing freelance writing at that time.
Okay.
But it wasn't fetching me that kind of income because I was freelancing and I just started off.
Yeah.
So she's like, "Do you want to do this?" I was like, "Oh wow, you were serious about it." She said, "Yeah. So we're starting this new venue called Love Shack. And would you want to come and host karaoke there?" And I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute." And I had performed at Love Shack with a band. I'd kind of rapped with that band at that venue. So I knew the venue. And it just launched. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, you were talking about this venue? Why not?" Right? So I went. It was a Monday. And, you need tracks to do karaoke. And I'm like, damn, I have 2 days, right? What do I do? My friends, man, they were so helpful, and I'll always be grateful to them. They went all out to help me out with this. So I had a few tracks. They helped me out with a couple of them, like a few tracks from here or there. So all my friends kind of pitched in and really helped me out. And I remember I hosted the first karaoke session on a Wednesday night. And I did that for 9 years after that.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
It was one of the longest running karaoke ladies' night in the country.
Dude.
So 9 years, man. Every Wednesday night.
Oh, damn. I've been invited to Love Shack for a lot of events, but I've just not gone because, I don't drink anyway. So what's the point, going there? Yeah. But also maybe I've gone there to hang out, but not for the karaoke night. But I would have run into you or seen you there if I...
Maybe. So I did that for 9 years. They shut down last year after the pandemic. They didn't renew their license. Yeah. So that was the end. I think, 9 years. Lasted a good 8 to 9 years.
Wow. Dude.
But that's how I started hosting karaoke. And like I said, it was a weird career to be in because just explaining to people was very tough. But I would say being a karaoke jockey is like being an entertainer and a DJ put together. Because
a host as well, right?
And a host as well. Yeah. Because what you're doing is that you're kind of stirring the night towards a certain momentum or a certain energy. And that's what you do as a karaoke jockey. So a lot of people come and they're like, "Hey, so like what do you actually do?"
Yeah, you're just holding this mic and walking around. Yeah.
You're introducing someone, that's it, right? And you're using the laptop, you're operating the laptop. So that's what you are. But obviously there's a lot more to it because if that was it, then there wouldn't not be a karaoke jockey and I wouldn't be getting paid for it, not at least for 9 years at least, right? At multiple venues. So
did it pay well, if you don't mind me asking?
So initially not. It was a very small amount. So I started off very basic.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I think it took me that while to break that barrier and to kind of get
I don't
across
even
that.
know too many KJs.
Yeah.
which
Now
is-
there are a lot more
Yeah.
in the city and across the country, and it's a good network across the country, and I know a lot of them
Yeah.
through competitions and just networking. So you know people now.
Yeah.
So it happens across the country. A lot of cities do karaoke, but back then it was still a very alien concept. There were two places in Bangalore that used to do karaoke back then. And this was probably the third one that started, but it went big because for a Wednesday night, for it to be packed with 200 300 people was never
It's crazy.
was never thought of back then.
yeah.
Right, on a Wednesday night, people coming out to do this, but it happened. It went off really well, and like I said, lasted 9 years. And the other venue I started on a Thursday night, it's already been 6-7 years, Happy Brew. Like it's been 6 to 7 years that I've been doing Thursday nights at Happy Brew. So yeah, that's how it kind of started off. DJing was never a thought initially. So when I was hosting karaoke at Love Shack, I should see the resident DJ, and I'm like, man, this is how I'd like to express music. Right? Because I could never figure out how to express my passion for music.
Yeah.
Or to monetize it.
Yeah.
But I used to watch him play, and I'm like, man, this is so interesting. And I used to love the music he played. I used to absolutely love the music he played. So I spoke to him, and he was like, hey, why don't you join this school or this academy where they teach you how to DJ? This is what we do. So why don't you join? And it was really difficult because at that point of time, the only thing I was doing was hosting karaoke on a Wednesday night and doing my freelance writing projects. So it was very little money because I'm still paying for my bills.
Yeah.
I'm still paying my car EMI.
Yeah. Oh, shit.
And I have to pay for a course. And I'm like, oh man, because studying after a point of time is really, really difficult, right? You're starting all over again. You're studying, and it's really difficult. But somehow I managed to save money, took up this course, and went for it. Learned how to become a DJ. And I think for the first 1 or 2 years, I didn't even get an opportunity to DJ.
After you graduate.
After I finished my course, I didn't get time. I didn't get a platform. So it took me that long, and but finally,
But how do you think it kind of started? Did you go around looking for these?
So I didn't because I knew people in the city, but from a very different perspective because I used to attend their parties. Right? It was a very different perspective.
Yeah, you were a consumer.
I was a consumer at that point of time. But I was an artist in a very different domain. I was a karaoke jockey, and I wasn't a DJ at that particular point of time. So what I did was, even the venue didn't have the equipment. So I went again, invested in a controller, like a smaller mini DJing set up. Yeah. I bought it. It was a big investment for me at that point of time. Yeah. And I invested. And what I started doing was that I used to finish karaoke, and that last 15-20 minutes, I started DJing myself. So I must have told the owners that, hey, you know what? Let me do this myself. Obviously, I'm not charging you for it, but let me do this. Let's see how it goes. So I started doing that. So that 15 minutes became 20, 20 became 30. And that's how it kind of went across the next few months. And finally, the owner was like, hey, why don't you do brunch for us? And I did a brunch session for them. I think that was my first DJ gig as such. Because after I graduated from my academy, we did a performance at Pebble. That was technically my first DJ gig ever because 5 of us from our batch did this.
Yeah.
That was my first
feedback. How did
it was great.
Feedback in the sense, how did you feel?
Man, it was something else. It really, I was like, so wow, I'm finally doing it.
Worth the course.
It was worth the course. But after that, for not having
for 2 years,
gig for a year or two was very weird, very different, and very disheartening. Because I was in the industry. I was in the nightlife industry, and I couldn't crack it. I just couldn't crack it. But I stuck to it. I kept doing this because I figured if I don't practice enough, I'm going to lose touch and I'm going to forget about it and just be lethargic about it.
Yeah.
But somehow I kind of invested money, went ahead with this. And I said, I did that first gig, which was a brunch session at the same venue. Yeah. And from that, I finally cracked a Friday night. and I started doing every Friday at one particular venue.
Yeah.
So it was that.
Damn.
Yeah, that's how I started, and it was very tough to break through the industry. By the way,
Can you imagine, dude?
yeah, it was very, very difficult. I think I really struggled to kind of break through, and also to break the stereotype of being a karaoke jockey, right? Because people at that point looked at me as a karaoke jockey, and they're like, "But he only hosts karaoke. You know, how can he DJ?"
Yeah.
So it took me a few years to shift that balance and to be a karaoke jockey and a DJ. It took a few years,
Right.
you know, but I think it was worth it because I really enjoy DJing and I do it across.
Yeah.
And,
Dude, that's like your biggest thing now, right?
Yeah, it is. Actually, I think I'm more known for it now.
Yeah.
You know, even a lot of people don't even know that I've been acting for that long or modeling for that long.
Yeah.
But technically, I started acting. Like it was my first job. Technically, it was my first job.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that for a longer time. But in terms of volume, I've been doing a lot more DJ gigs than acting. Yeah.
Damn, dude, that's crazy. And this whole acting thing also is just you. I don't know if Google's listening in on me just when we are talking, when you're messaging or whatever. But I look at YouTube when I'm scrolling, and every other ad features you, dude. I mean, it's surprising. Either it's at Home Lane or one of these ads that comes up, and I'm just like, first time I saw it, I'm like, wait, I know this person. And at that point, I was still like, you know, looking at other guests, and I just shortlisted you, and we're like, wait, I know this person. And what's the video? I'm like, no way, this is Martin. and and to think that has also become something that you do, right? Like you said, something you started off with years ago. And I think the biggest takeaway I see from your journey is the fact that I won't call a slump, but there are years of just dormancy, right?
It was.
You didn't go back to acting for a long time. You didn't go to properly DJ for a year or two, but then it came back because you got somehow tried to get your foot in the door. Right?
I think I didn't give up. I think I stuck to it. I somehow had that hope, saying it'll happen. I still have hope, you know, hoping that I will make it big, you know, or I will do this, I will do that with acting, with modeling, or with my DJing. And I still think of it that way, and I'd probably never give up. Having said that, I will continue doing it as long as I enjoy doing it.
Right? The moment it kind of,
you know, I stop enjoying it, I think I'll probably just do something else. And I'm very okay and accepting of it. Right. But I've put in a lot of years into this. And
into these.
And I really hope I
you will, dude.
I mean, touch wood, fingers crossed. You know, and I still have that faith, and I've never given up. I think over the last few years. And I probably won't. Because I still feel like I put in a lot of time into this. Okay, and you know, cut down on my social life. When people see me, they're like, oh man, like what a social life, right? Like it's buzzing. But for me, that is work. It's not my like social life, or it's not my life. Because that for me is work. I'm at a work environment. When I'm at a club or a pub and I'm meeting people and talking to them, it's a lot of fun, but it's still my work time. It's not my personal time, you know? And what I do during my personal time is very, very different. So I wake up early in the morning and I'm working on my music constantly throughout the day, right? And I'm hoping it'll pay off, right? Or doing auditions, right? The ads that you see, it's not that, you know, they just call me and it happened, right? I'm still auditioning for these ads, and, you know, there are hundreds of them auditioning for it. And man, I send across auditions every 2 or 3 days, right? And if I got every audition possible, I'd be shooting every day. Right? But it doesn't work that way, right? There's certain characters that you don't fit into, or maybe your audition wasn't that great. All of that plays a factor, right? And it's not easy. So say for every 10 auditions, I will get 1 ad. Maybe that's the ratio at times. And it is that. Even last night, I sent across auditions. I don't even know if I'll get it. But man, I went to sleep. I finished my gig, went back home, I shot my auditions, sent it across. So, you know, it's that, right? I mean, I gave up on that 1 hour of sleep, but hoping that it'll convert. Maybe it won't. Right? But that's the work that I think I at least have to do. and hopefully it'll pay off.
Yeah, dude, I'm sure it will. The way I see it is, all the things that you're doing now are exactly the opposite of maybe just being, having a stable desk job.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't know where your next gig's coming from.
Exactly.
Right? And it's not easy living with that mentality, dude.
Yeah,
because, dude, it takes some resilience and some maybe amount of thick skin as well to really just stick with that.
It is. So like I said, when I quit my job, and again, we were discussing this earlier, when I quit my job, I was so broke, man. I quit when I was 25 or 26.
Yeah.
I was so broke because I was working for that many years, and it was the beginning of my career.
Yeah.
Right? I had a car, I had my car loan, and I was still paying EMIs. And that was a significant amount. So I was at that phase in life where everybody else around me, most of them at least, are doing well in their careers, respective careers, are making money, right? They're going for holidays, they're buying certain things. And I'm here thinking, where will I make that money to fill fuel in my car and then pay EMI for that, right? It was that. And at the same time, these two other friends of mine, Mayank and Megha, that I was talking about, right? They had also quit their job, and they were also trying to figure out their passions or, what they want to do in life. So we were like, man, the three of us, 25-year-olds who quit their jobs, and now we're like, what now? What next, right? Or where will we get money from? I still remember us actually saying, hey, you know what? I have $100 today. I have 100 rupees today. So what we can do is that one of us can fill fuel. So for example, I fill fuel, and then we're going out somewhere in the night. So you pay for this. So we'll split this.
Yeah.
We lived like that for a while, man, and for a few months, right? And this is after working for a few years, having a steady income, and then suddenly dropping, right? So we went through that phase, and it was a really tough phase where you didn't have money, and we weren't the ones who would ask our parents for money.
Yeah.
And it was also like a challenge because, I took the decision to quit my job and to
it's
follow
all
my
on you.
passion. It's all on me, man. And my parents were great. I think they were supportive. They were apprehensive, but I think they didn't tell me no. And I think that's the biggest blessing that I had from them. They never said no. They had apprehensions, a lot of apprehensions, and a lot of doubts about it.
Yeah.
And, it was tough kind of doing all of this, and then everybody around you telling you, what are you doing in life? What are you doing in life? Like, are you crazy? Have you lost it? You want to write? You want to do freelance writing? Oh, you want to act? You want to model?
And from the looks of it, you're doing so many things, right? Or rather, you have your interests in so many things.
Yeah.
So it comes across like you're just doing random shit.
Yeah. It does. Obviously, to people, they'll be like, "Arey." So basically, you're doing whatever you want to do, right? Because you have the time. Maybe it was a mix of that because I had the time, I had the energy and the mind space to invest into all these things.
Yeah.
So maybe it worked for me.
Yeah.
But it was a tough phase. I'm saying financially, when it hits you, it really hits you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, not having money to fill fuel to your car,
damn.
that's crazy. And then at the end of the month, you're like, oh man, my EMI, what do I do? Right? So whatever check you've got, right, with through your freelance jobs, you're like, oh man, that money is gone. Or whatever savings you had from your previous job,
it's not even your money.
It's not in your money,
it's going directly to someone else.
It's just going there, right? It's just going to the bank. But that phase was tough. I think it was the toughest phase. I'm not saying that things after that weren't tough, but I think it was tough at that time because you weren't. It's probably the first time you faced such a big task.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's that. Now that you've gone through it, it's easier, or it's easier to overcome that fear, or you're a little more calmer about it. For example, the pandemic, it hit my industry really, really badly. I'm saying the music industry, entertainment industry.
Yeah.
It hit us very, very badly because I had a lot of payments pending from before that.
Yeah.
So what happened with the lockdown is that A, I wasn't working. B, I wasn't getting the money I've already earned over the last few months. So
I'm yet to release.
Yeah, and yet to release those payments because they're also shut down.
Yeah.
Right. So the next few months, I had to just carry on with whatever money I've saved. Right. And it hit us so badly. And I'm like, man, how did things just suddenly change, turn around? And honestly, last year, it's had such positive vibes about where my career was headed towards. I think with regard to DJing, I was doing really well. I was there are a lot of bigger milestones I would have achieved last year if COVID hadn't hit. And I'd worked, man, I'd slogged my ass off to get to that point. Right? I'd slog my ass off to get to that point, and it just went down. So
something that's not even in your control.
It wasn't in my control. And I think that also hit us really, really badly. And you had to be in a really positive mindset to kind of overcome that. Because it hit us so badly because, again, like you're hit financially, you're hit career-wise, and everything that we've put into has just completely disappeared. And it happened for the next few months. But again, I mean, great friends, family around you, I think really help you. They're your support system. And I think that really helped me kind of overcome this. And for us now, it's literally you're starting all over again, right? Because you're building that entire industry, that reputation all over again. I'm not saying it disappeared, but that momentum completely stopped. And I think that last year it hit really badly. But what happened after that is that I got time to do a lot more shoots. And which is what that's how I look at it, saying that, hey, I got time to do more shoots. I got time to learn a lot more things with music. I got to work on a lot more music. I got to spend time with friends and family. All of that kind of helped, which I never do. Which I never get to do otherwise. And I got to sleep. Like, I just got to sleep like normal, like a normal human being, which I don't now because my work timings is such that I finish much later. So I'm on a very different sleep cycle, right? But that time, I think everything just fell into place. So I think the universe has its way of telling you, I think you're pushing yourself too much. Just sit down.
Maybe just bring COVID for you to relax.
Relax. But now take it away. I think I'm done.
I think it's a little too.
It's a little too
it's
much
like we're
now.
in 2021, but it still feels like 2020.
It really feels like it because now the cases have gone up and it's just back to that, right?
Dude. I mean, I think we need to brace for true impact. It is.
I think after this, I'm mentally prepared, ready for it. You can never be prepared for something like this because you have to be financially prepared and
everything. So many facets.
So many facets, and these are things you don't have under your control. So I think after a point of time, you just have to sit back, relax, and say, hey, you know what? I'll do as much as I can. Things work out. They work out. They don't. It's that.
Yeah, so true. I was going to, I'm glad you brought that up because my last question I wanted to ask you was around that, how did you cope with the whole pandemic bit? Because like one is what we just spoke about where you don't know where your next gig and what the prospects are, right? And then there's the other side of things where you're doing something, most of the things you're doing are actually in person. Like the events, the performances, right? So when COVID hits, you're basically just sitting at home just like everyone else is. Then it kind of becomes a little bit
of a challenge. So weird. So we did a lot of online sessions. A lot of the DJs did this. And
it must have sucked.
Man, I'm telling you, right? Because you're playing and, to a screen. And then you have to also, enjoy it as much as you are enjoying it in a club or a pub. And I look like a fool. If anybody else, walks into my room and looks at me, they're like, oh, I think it really lost it. I think COVID really got to it. Because I'm jumping around and I'm, I'm like all out, right? But I'm the only one in my room, right?
And dogs looking at you.
I'm like, what is he doing? And I'm hoping that the people on the other side who are watching it on their phones or on their laptops are actually enjoying it. And I'm hoping, right? It's a hope. That's it, right? And so you're doing this, you're playing to a sense of hope and be like, okay, I hope they enjoyed it. I hope they had a great time. But it is what it was. And I think it, like I said, I think a lot of things, a lot of learnings from this COVID era. And of course, a lot of unexpected hits that can happen to any of us. And I'm saying we weren't the only ones who got affected, right? Sure, everybody got affected because of this. But I really hope that everyone's bouncing back or at least mentally strong and stable about this and be prepared for anything that could hit them.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely the biggest takeaway from last year for
it is.
sure.
It is.
Like
Yeah.
out of everything, like if we're in a parallel universe, or maybe 2 years ago, if we had to sit down and try and figure out what is the worst shit that can happen, there's no way we would have even.
There's no way. I'm telling you, I would have. These are things you watch in movies.
Yeah,
we're living. We're living the movie.
Yeah, exactly.
That's all. Yeah.
Damn, dude.
Yeah.
There are people who predicted this whole what do you call it? Biochemical of bio warfare, right? And the situation where there's going to be a virus somewhere in the world, and then the entire shit goes to dogs, right? But then everything's been showcased like it's apocalypse, and it kind of becomes really bad and all that. But what about just having the world we are in right now, which is to just survive and sitting at home, and you forgetting about the basic things, like you're not getting to meet someone else,
Exactly.
your neighbor's like literally beyond this wall, but you can't even meet the person. And then there's stigma, and then there's pressure, and then there's
crazy.
It's
really crazy.
Damn.
And I think everyone went through it.
Yeah.
And COVID taught us a lot of lessons
for sure. Yeah,
that I would have never thought. I would
be required to
this
learn,
way.
right?
Like be required to learn this way at least.
Yeah,
but
for sure. Dude, Martin, this is awesome. I think that's a good place to wrap things up.
Yeah.
I'll ask something of you which I ask of all my guests. What's one last message you'd want to put out there for our viewers and listeners? And this is just to put you on the spot.
I think never give up hope. I just keep hoping.
Never give up hope.
Yeah, never give up hope. Like I think it's the biggest thing that has helped me, at least, to get to where I am, and I'm still holding on to it, hoping that I will reach to the next level, and the journey continues, and it just doesn't stop. Hard work. You really need to keep working hard, and I still feel I don't work hard enough. And my friends think that I've already lost it, but I'm already I think I need to work much harder, man, to get to the next level, right? But at the same time, not give up, because it's really disheartening when you put in hard work, or when you put in your time and energy and something doesn't happen immediately. Then there are immediate results at times, and there are never immediate results at times. So it's that, and I think hope is my magical word, for all of us.
Yeah, perfect, dude.
Yeah.
And if you had to send people online, where can we send them?
I think my Instagram account is quite active now.
Okay.
It wasn't 2 years back, but now I'm
COVID.
I got COVID. Now, also a friend kind of yelled at me and she's like, "Dude, this is your profession. You better be on it and spread the word." Yeah. But my Instagram profile, it's Martin D'Souza Official. Okay. I put up pretty much everything about my acting, about my DJ gigs, about my karaoke gigs, about my travel, just everything on that, and everything else from there, my YouTube, my website, etc. is from there. So I also have a website. It's called martindesouza.online.
Okay.
So that also has quite a bit of info on it. So,
perfect. Cool, Martin. This was awesome. Thank you so much, and I'm glad we could finally make this happen.
Finally, Akash. Thank you so much. Firstly, for the black coffee. Yeah. It was great. Thank you so much. Awesome. And I had a great time, man. I mean, it was a lot of fun doing this. So thank you. And you're doing a great job doing this, because, like I said, when we were in that phase, we didn't have that environment. You're creating that environment for people to do things that they want to do.
Again, just like you.
Yeah. No, I
hoping that's the case.
It's probably the biggest help that everyone requires.
Perfect. Good, Martin. Thank you so much. Cool.
Thank you so much, Akash. Take care. Thank you.
So that was the episode with Martin. What do you think of it? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're stuck around till now, then I'm assuming you liked the episode. If you did, then please do hit the like button. It's a small action from your part, but goes a long way with the YouTube algorithm. If you're listening to this over audio though, then consider sharing the episode with your family and friends. If you are on Apple Podcasts, then you can leave a rating and a review. And that helps with a very different algorithm. Cool. I can't wait for you guys to experience what we have next. But until then, ciao.